Hi everyone, ThatPaulGuy here. Today we're going to do a tutorial, Java tutorial on inputs. I did one before where we talked about having to use inputs or variables inside a class. And actually today we're going to do something that's a little bit different than that. When you're defining variables inside of the main function, you don't actually have to worry about trying to make them static or public or anything. You can just define them as a regular variable. So to make a new project, we can either use this under File or use the folder right here. They both do exactly the same thing. We're going to make a new application. Let's call this one practice because it is just all practice. And that's going to come up. Okay, we do a little bit of cleanup here just to make it look nice and pretty. Author Paul. Woo, yay, that's me. Do. And really, you don't have to do any of the cleanup. This is just so it's easier for me to see where I'm at and a little bit easier to follow what's going on here. So standard project, anytime you start a new project like this in NetBeans, it's going to do the same thing, and you can clean it up. You can leave it like you want, whatever works for you. To do input variables, one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to import a package, and we're going to import a Java library called utility, and a specific one under utility, which is called scanner, and that is looking for a keyboard input. So it's grayed out right now because we're not actually using it, but we're about to. So let's go ahead and define that or make a reference to that inside of main so we can use it without a problem. And we're going to go ahead and, in this case, I just renamed it scanner with a small s. And anytime we do that, we're going to make a new scanner object. System in. Perfect. Okay, again, this is great because we're not using it, but we're about to. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and use a word, just any kind of word, and we're going to create a string. Let's call it word. Seems simple enough, right? And our scanner reference. Next. All this is looking for is a string. Doesn't need that 0. And we can even turn around and print out so we made sure that it worked. Right. What this is going to do is it's going to go ahead and take an input, and it's going to just print that input right back out for us. There is one small caveat, one small problem, and that's that we don't actually know when it's working, except for you'll see it clear out down here. The output, all right, we know it's running, but we're going to clear that up in just a second as well. So in this case, we are just going to go ahead and type a word, and it does, it types word. But let's go ahead and make this a little bit simple, or a little bit easier to understand. We're going to go ahead and print a little bit of instruction. Just to let us know that we want a word. So, and that'll become clear in just a moment. Type a word. Okay. Because what we want to do next is we want to also, we've got a word. It's going to say type a word, and then it's going to prompt us for that. And that way we'll also know when we're not inside the editor here, but we are actually down working in the console. It makes it a lot easier. Our next one we would want to do is, let's go ahead and something very similar. Type a number. It's going to operate very much on the same premise as a string, but in this case it's going to be an integer. And let's just call this one number. Treat this one the same way. But instead of next and just having the function, we're going to have next integer in our parentheses. And that tells it that it's looking for an integer value. It's looking for a number. So then we're going to print that out as well. Okay. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to type in a word. It's going to tell us to type in a word. We're going to type in a word. It's going to tell us to type in a number. We're going to type in a number, specifically an integer in this case. Okay, so down here in our window, perfect. Again, we want to make sure our cursor is down here in the output window, not in the editor, because we don't want to be editing something by accident and cause us problems. There's our word. There's our number. Good deal. So say if we want to do something a little bit different, say we don't actually want to input a number, but we still want the system to find us a number. We can do that by doing a random. We're going back up here and we're going to import another library. And this one's utility random. Now we got a random library working. The same way we reference scanner, so we could use it inside of the main, we're going to do as well with random. Okay, simple enough, right? Just looking for a random or a reference to random. In this case, we're going to do integer, and we'll say it's a new random because it's a new random number. Referencing a random. And similar to the integer above, the way we did that with the scanner, we're going to do the very similar thing with random. But we also needed to let it know how many numbers, or between what numbers we're going to do a random number of. Well, we want to do 100. So just to say random between 1 and 100. Now, as you know, this is not going to give us a number between 1 and 100 here yet. It's going to give us a number between 0 and 99. To make it a number between 1 and 100, we have to add 1 to it. The random number on an integer, anything like that, is always going to start with an index of 0. So it's always going to be 0 to whatever. So we have to add 1 to it. And let's clean this up a little bit. So then we want to go ahead and print it. Print out new random. Okay, and as a matter of fact, we will maybe even want to add okay, now it's going to actually print both of these. It's going to print the string and the number. And so we should have a string word, an integer number, and then we're going to do a random integer between 1 and 100. Again, make sure our cursor's down here at the bottom. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. Oops, and we forgot to leave a space in here. Our random number ended up being 54 here. Just because I forgot to do a space is a little bit confusing, but if we do that again, type a word, run, type a number 15, and now we've corrected that. So our random number is 98. But that random number runs immediately after printing our other number. So we've wanted to do something to tell it, actually prompt it when we could do that. Well, we can do that by using another input, and in this case we're going to input a character. Okay, so we're going to type in, excuse me, any character. Yep, I saw it. And I corrected it. Okay. Now we're going to do this very similar to the string. Apologies. Very similar to the string, char, because we're looking for a character, and we're just going to call it ch for the time being. The way we're going to do that, similar to the string, is it's also going to be a scanner. We're also looking for next, but because we're looking for just a character, the first letter or the first character, the first input that's after, or the first input at all, we don't want the entire word. So we're looking for the actual character at index 0 of whichever word, if that makes sense. Say you're looking for, this needs to be lowercase. Say you're looking, you type in word and you're just looking for the W. You're looking for that very first indexed value. And to keep this from being grayed out, we're going to go ahead and actually print what it was that we chose. And there we go. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got a word, we've got a number, we've got a character, which basically is done the same way as doing a string, but you're only taking the first index value. It's going to print that character back out, but this character, basically taking that step, is just a prompt to do our random number here, which is underneath, and that's going to print us a random number. This will change a little bit down here. Again, we want to make sure that our cursor, instead of being up here, is going to be down here. Type a word, there we go. Type a number, 15. Type a character, let's say F. And our random number's 72. Okay, not very complicated at all. Basic things to remember is that when you're inside of the main, you can define these pretty easily just by calling the integer, the character, the string, what have you. You don't have to make a reference to the static or making it public or anything like that, like you would if it were in a class, because you're only dealing with this one main right here. If we were doing, if we had other sections to our code, we might have to define it a little bit differently. But a simple program like this is very easy. So that being said, there you go. I hope it's pretty easy to understand and pretty easy to see. I try not to make it too difficult, and that's just cut and dry, a couple of different ways of taking input and giving output, and even finding a random number. So there'll be other tutorials. There'll be other, I guess you could say, talking head videos. A couple of people have asked about what kind of computer or what I'm doing for my computer as far as building and making videos and everything. So we'll go ahead and I'll discuss that, and I'll show that in another video pretty soon. So if anybody has any suggestions, obviously be glad to hear them. Comments, if you like the video, hit like. As always, you're welcome to subscribe if you're not already. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.